Hello everyone, welcome to the 5 Minutes PM podcast. Today I like to talk about an article that I published recently on my LinkedIn page and also on my website about the most talented people should leave their own cocoons. They should become butterflies. And I want just to clarify some aspects of this article because of course this article is my own opinion and my own view. But I want to start saying that we intrinsically, we hate change. And I'm saying this in a very bold way. Despite of what is your current situation, you usually hate change. Because we are raised, I'm not saying you individually, but as a society, we were raised with a perspective of stability, predictability. And prosperity means stability, predictability. You want to know if you will have food tomorrow, if you'll have something to eat next week. And this is how our society was organized. If you go back to the book Sapiens from Yuval Noah Harari, you will see that. Okay, since we left the nomad life, we are seeking for stability, predictability, and change goes on the opposite direction. And now what is the problem? Most organizations, governments, societies today, what is a fit for purpose? For you to continue in a corporate level to become and remain competitive, you must change, you must adapt, you must reinvent. So what happened? There is a complete disconnection between our own aspiration of stability and what the company must do to survive. So what happens? We live in a society where change is a survival characteristic, but we hate change. But we want to survive. So this is why I put that analogy that we must remove the safety net and replace for a hope to climb. Of course, please, this is not a libertarian speech, okay? I know many people need to have full support. Many people need to have the safety net because we cannot remove this because people are not prepared to climb on the hopes. But for a small specific group that maybe is listening to this podcast, because if you listen to this podcast, you have access to a computer, you have access to a player, you have probably a smartphone. So you are in a very small minority that were gifted to have all these conditions. And at the same time, you want the safety net, and it doesn't make sense for me. Because the safety net is like for me what I call the golden cage. It's gold, it's filled with gold, but it's still a cage. And most organizations in the past, they tried to recruit people and they tried to keep people based on the concept of the safety net. Means you will never lose your job, you will never lose your days, we'll give you food, we'll give you house. These were all great. But right now, we need to shift and we need ourselves to assume a little bit more the responsibility for our own safety net. And the safety net should not be something that the organization puts to you, but that you develop for yourself. I'm not saying this will fit for 7 billion people, and of course it will not. But several very high talented people, they still think that they are not capable to develop their own choices. And this is why I said about ropes to climb. Because at the same point you start learning how to climb, how to use the rope, how to navigate in your organizations, how to navigate among different organizations, you increase your value. And by increasing your value, you increase your safety net. But this second safety net is your own safety net. It's not an artificial safety net that some organizations put to protect you, or maybe a law, because laws may change. Organizations may change. Organizations may collapse. So organizations, for example, and suddenly that safety net will just disappear. But if you are able to learn, to challenge yourself, to innovate on your ability to work, to adapt to the different circumstances, you will have on this whole the best safety net that you can have for you. And this is what the article meant. And as a leader, you must create among your junior team the same drive. For example, all of those who are listening to this podcast that have worked at some point on their lives with me, they will see that people call me Mr. Options. That every single time I talk to people and say, do you have options? You must build options. Means, do you have hopes? You have hopes. And I say that, I always say like a joke, and I say Tarzan only survived in the jungle because he has more than one hope. And this is something you must think. And what is hope? A hope is a knowledge. This hope is, for example, your ability to adapt to different circumstances, your geographical flexibility to move and to live. All of this is what makes you a much more valuable asset for any organization and any society. And this is what the article is about. It's to break this cocoon and live like a butterfly, where you have so many options, including living very close to your cocoon, but not arrested inside that small cage that is your cocoon. So think about that. And I can tell you this, I'm sharing my own experience because I lived my whole life trying to build my own options. And I'm very fortunate that I could have built this. And I want you to do the same, because this is the way that we can create a much more reliable society where people do not become victims of any system, of any corporation. Think about that as a project manager, because you are a change agent. See you next week with another 5 Minutes PM podcast.